Welcome back to Sunsand and Soul. Josh Tomey with David Haber. Luis Teran joining us from Tenant Evaluation. It's their CEO and somebody who's got a lot of perspective on technology, having come from the medical space, which we've learned. And I know, Luis, you are also a prolific follower of artificial intelligence, AI technology, and blockchain technology.
What is blockchain? Seriously.
Luis?
Imagine a database.
In 3 words or less.
I'm going to make it idiot proof. It's a database that cannot be altered, where you're going to record something. Could be an event, transaction, something is recorded it and cannot be changed ever.
Okay. So let me ask you a question with respect to tenant evaluation and this kind of prop tech that you do, property technology. Are you now currently using artificial intelligence, or are you working towards using it?
We are using artificial intelligence and we are redoing the entire system, only using AI.
So in other words, the system will learn from itself.
Yeah.
And the more it learns, the more does it get rid of loopholes? Like if you find that, not a mistake, but you found a loophole in, let's just use the example, Venezuela, and you check the national database, but not the state database, and you find out that there is a state database, will it then in the future always check the state database because it's learning what it can do?
We can even go more in details about that. I'm going to give you something that only few people know. We're going to go to the point where if you are a condominium, you're going to apply with us. You're going to submit your association documents. Our AI is going to learn everything about the condominium. And it's going to suggest
what you can and what you can't look at.
So
wow.
What package are you going to be using? We're not going to let you use
the wrong package.
The wrong package. We're not going to let you screen things that you're not supposed to.
That's fantastic.
Screen. And we have another module with the Fair Credit Reporting Act. So when you're ready to approve or deny, you're going to end up doing whatever you feel like as a condominium. But we're going to say, hey, we find out that you're going to deny this person. And according to the Fair Credit Reporting Act.
Well, you're just going to give them the information on Fair Credit Reporting Act.
This is something the Fair Credit Reporting Act says you cannot do, but you are free to decide to do whatever you feel like. Our job is to present the data, present the law, and then you decide what you want to do.
And that's going to be all through automated intelligence.
So we are going to that point.
You're just going to help that. You're not making any decisions for them.
We never make
You're just giving them, here's the law on OFAC. Here's the law on Fair Credit Reporting Act.
You got it.
Here's what it says you can't do. Now here's the data. Good luck making your decision.
And the condo docs, we're going to show. This is the reason why you can approve or deny.
And AI is doing that. So
AI is doing that.
Right. And so that can be in the middle of the night. That can be whether or not you have a subject matter expert on staff. It's doing that on a totally automated basis.
Imagine that technology putting into the applicants when they move as a residence. I can ask tenant evaluation about anything in the condominium. We'll be able to respond in the spot about any laws that exist that you don't know.
Are you getting rid of lawyers?
No, of course not.
Okay, and my experience with tenant evaluation to date is
getting rid of lawyers, folks.
You're already doing a lot of automated customer service, because I got to imagine you get a lot of the same questions over and over again, and you already have AI interacting with residents or with management companies to help answer a lot of those questions.
Absolutely.
So where do you see this going over the next 3 to 5 years, both tenant evaluation and prop tech? I mean, it seems to me right now, Luis, things are evolving so quickly, especially for our listeners and viewers, the end users of this. Every time you go through this process, it seems slightly different. In some ways simpler, in other ways more complex based on the depth. What's going to happen over the next 3 to 5 years in prop tech, especially from your end of the industry or in general?
I just going to mention one thing. In Silicon Valley, they are saying this. The next $1 billion company is being formed by 2 people. Only 2 people are going to be able to create an entire company. AI getting to the point where you don't need to have programmers, people answer phones, doing marketing, everything is going to be done with a machine. So if you don't evolve as a company within the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to be gone. It's going to be only the companies that implement
AI.
I'm 100%.
Law firms are implementing AI as well, and you have limits on it. And it was very interesting.
But in 3 or 5 years, imagine in 3 to 5 years, David, what we're going to see. I mean, if you don't really embrace the technology, you're going to be gone.
Well, we now can say, write a letter to a client regarding X subject, and it'll draft the letter for you.
Mm-hmm. Right. And probably better than a lot of, your junior associates might be able to.
Okay, I don't want to go that far, but I could say that it'll have all the proper bells and whistles in it because AI knows what to put in it.
No more free lunches for Josh at Haber Law. I just immediately eliminated that.
Just killed me.
But
I want to ask a question on that.
Sure.
And that is, when you're using AI, are you eliminating jobs within your own company?
That's a very good question.
See, he's now said that 3 times to me and only once to you. I do keep score, folks. Go ahead.
We are making every employee of Tenant Evaluation to become a prompt engineer.
What is that?
Prompt engineer is somebody who can use AI. You can create your own module to help to enhance your job. Why we're doing that?
So you're retraining your employees to use AI.
Yeah. And then you're going to become more productive.
And more valuable.
Of course. And that's not only just for us.
Do you think other companies are going to be willing to invest the resources?
Or are they capable of reverse engineering a process? I mean, my follow-on question, and it really is actually, it is a great question by David, because I was building to sort of the same point was, how does an end user, either a management company, a resident, a board, how do they identify these cutting edge companies? Because I mean, one of the brilliant pieces of AI that I've seen in lots of industries is you don't know you're dealing with AI now until in some cases, a few years ago, it was a little easier to sort of tell that you're dealing with some sort of automated form of intelligence. It's getting more and more difficult. I will fully
go on Facebook, and when they send you, look at these, shopping links, and they have looked at your preferences in the past, or Amazon or any of these companies, they know who you're looking at, what you're looking at.
Well, and I think there's that. There's the chatbot stuff, and then there's even voice chats that are getting so realistic. I will admit that I participated unknowingly in an automated chat with somebody on the telephone for about 15 seconds before I realized it was an AI bot, because they're beginning to use tone and cadence that sounds very natural. Yeah. And he said, hey, it's Chris calling from such and such a bank. I saw that you're refinancing this or doing that.
You got dudes.
And I said, yeah, I've already found something. He said, oh, I understand, but we'd love to have a conversation. There's pauses in their voice. There's sort of chuckles and clearing of throat. I mean, they're it's sounding
they're mimicking
so
humans.
real. It's incredible. Yeah. So how does to my question, how does the end user identify, not AI, but identify those leading companies to say, we want to be part of that cutting edge technology. We want to implement those, but it's very difficult for us to tell unless somebody is just advertising the fact they use it.
I'm going to tell you from the perspective of tenant evaluation. The way you're going to know we are using AI in the future is very simple. You're going to be able to apply in our system within 3 minutes.
You mentioned earlier that face recognition. That's incredible to me.
So we're going to go to face recognition.
So how does that work? So someone is going on the computer screen and they're putting in the application.
No, they're not putting in applications. We're just going to ask for your face. We're going to pull the information. Then we're going to ask for a copy of your driver license.
And that's it.
Your social security, and that's it.
So
and then everything else gets populated based on the fact it's who they are, who they say they are. They validated it in a couple of ways, and that's it.
So imagine the impact for older people. Now we see older people trying to fill up an application. They don't understand. They get, something that could be done in 20 minutes, they take 2 hours.
So now with the facial recognition, it's going to be quick.
Yeah.
But interestingly, facial recognition is going to get rid of a lot of mistakes that could have in the past occurred when there's John Smith. There's 5 million John Smiths. That facial recognition is the equivalent of like fingerprint technology, right?
But we're going to go even one step further with this. This is going to be from the condominium perspective, be able to do something within 5 minutes. But for you as an applicant, we're going to tell you where you are in the black web. So if you are in the black
All right,
web,
let's start with what is the black web? People need to know.
The dark web, black web, or
it's the seedy underbelly of the internet where personal data gets traded, bought, and sold based on surreptitious acquisition of it. So
that someone can commit a fraud.
Somebody steals your identity. Yeah. So if you have credit monitoring services now, they typically have dark web screening that says your email or one of your passwords has shown up on the dark web. I have a service that every time, if I have a repetitive password on any of the sites, they'll say it showed up on the dark web in this location. You need to change it.
Photos of you or your wife, you don't want that in the dark web. So we're going to be able to pull that data and present that to you. And you're like, look, we found this here.
Look, honey.
Well, I post pictures of us with fish, so I'm kind of lucky. It's just fish.
But it's not just what you post, because when
they take the face then and then use it?
Well, what they can do is if you have a password that's been exposed, they might be gaining access to your social media or even your phone or computer without you knowing it.
So wait a minute. So now you can provide a service to the applicant that has nothing to do with the condominium association or the HOA or the multifamily owner of a building where you're going to be a tenant. It can help you and say, your information is out there. What do they then, I'm just asking as an end user, what do I then do when I find out that Tenant Evaluation was able to find my information in the dark web? How do you block it thereafter?
That's very good. We're going to give you,
that's 4
we're
times.
going to give you the option to delete that information.
You can delete it?
Using one of our tools. Help you to delete that information.
Okay, well, I'm definitely going to give you my information in order for you to determine whether, I'm sure it is. With all the companies that have been compromised and the federal government having been compromised, I'd be shocked if 40% of America didn't have data on the dark web.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure it's probably even more than that.
So it's probably more than that.
So then let me paint.
So then now you've created for Tenant Evaluation an entirely new business having nothing to do with approvals. You just take the same people, the same group of people, and you're giving them an entirely new service that, quite frankly, is very important in today's world, which is getting people and their data scrubbed so that it's not out there to be used for fraud, or in many cases that I've dealt with, mortgages put on your property by someone who steals your name.
Taking your tax refund.
Oh, I've had that happen before to me.
Right. So let me paint a picture here. And this is kind
Luckily, it was when I was poor.
This is kind of a confirmed deny. So I'm painting a picture here. So I'm now applying to Condominium Association ABC. I go into a web application or a phone application of some kind. I'm using facial recognition and a driver's license to basically pull all that data. Tenant Evaluation is telling me, here's what we're populating. By the way, you're on the dark web. Now your information's been provided to the association. You've been approved to go live in this condo association. Now we're giving you the chance to set up deposits that are required by the condo association to move in or in the long term. But
there is one step before that.
Okay.
And that step is called True Transparency. We're going to be the first company nationwide that once we pull data from either criminal records, credit reports, or what have you, we're going to present that data to you first.
The end user, the applicant.
So that you can see what's there.
So we are changing the direction of an application. Instead of me
sending... So now it's really for you, the applicant.
Yeah. Imagine sending all that data and maybe something happened and we report something that was not you. Because it can happen. It's data. But now you're going to have the option to say, no, I'm going to dispute this record. This is not mine. Then we're going to enter into that dispute form. Verify it. If it's not you, we delete it. And then we present the package to the condominium.
So it gives you as the applicant the opportunity to make sure that the data that was pulled is 100% accurate and that no mistake was made.
100%. That's what we want to be. And it's called True Transparency.
How does this tie to blockchain, Luis? Because my knowledge
back to blockchain.
My knowledge of blockchain says that this is an opportunity to also more permanently archive that data, since blockchain as a data structure is indelible. That it's something that gets fixed and is at least permanent in theory. Is blockchain an application for use in that context?
100%. Once we have that in the blockchain and you want to reapply to live somewhere else,
It'll have deleted the part that's irrelevant, that's not proper.
Well, actually, no. We have that data sitting there, and if you want to apply into a condominium ACD, and you apply with us already, we already have most of your data, right?
Right.
That comes from the blockchain. We present it, and then you give the permission to review that data or not to the condominium.
But my question is, or I think Josh's question was, let's say there was a mistake. Let's say there was someone with the same name and, it pulled a record and it's not you. And they dispute it with the form and you delete it. Mm-hmm. Does that change the blockchain for you?
No, because you don't write that in the blockchain until the file is complete. Once
so
you,
the
as the
blockchain
user,
will fix it will take the data after it's fixed.
Well, after the file is complete. Remember, you apply to live somewhere. We pull all that data, right? Then you have the opportunity to review the data. Yeah, everything looks fine. Approve. Then it's presented to the condominium. You move in. That data gets recorded in the blockchain.
Okay.
And lives within tenant evaluation under UID.
So it sounds like the analogy is that first pass is like you're taking shorthand notes on legal paper. Second pass,
it's called proofreading.
Condo association,
proofreading.
You're typing it out, and the third is you're carving it in stone, and
exactly.
then you're able to basically visit that in the future the way you would a monument.
How many employees does tenant evaluation have?
We're around 100.
Wow.
How many applications on a monthly or annual basis are you doing right now? I know it's a lot. I mean,
we are about $250,000 a year.
Wow.
So given
and that's going to become more when the applicants want to know what's about them on the dark web.
Right.
So then on that note, it seems to me like the next obvious step in the process, knowing what I know about management and what I know about this technology, is at that point, then there's also financial transactions.
Yes.
And given the fact that you've already got all their financial data, you're already setting them up with, deposits and sort of this forward entry into their residence. At what point, whether or not tenants consider it or not, at what point does that financial exchange begin to happen? Because rent has to be paid, maintenance fees have to be paid. In Florida right now, and much to the ire of many of our listeners and viewers, special assessments have to be paid. Is tenant evaluation dabbling in that space?
We are partnership with an incredible company that has created a very unique system using blockchain in smart contracts. As you know, the banking system in the U.S. is obsolete. Everybody knows that.
People don't want to pay with checks anymore.
No, I know, and we're still using checks.
Even though they do.
But then it's going through the mail. And so we've had it at our law firm where people have created fake checks with our name on it with a different bank account.
Used to happen to us in the management space all the time.
It happens all the time. So if you have 1 million or 5 million people in Florida submitting checks on a monthly basis, and they're putting them in the mail or they're bringing them to the office, they can get lost.
Even if it's only 1%, you're talking about $50,000 a month.
Yeah, and so
fraud perpetrated.
So I presume what you're talking about is these people and their information. You get their banking information using this other technology from this other company, and every month it'll draw from their bank account. Right?
Yeah, we're going to use something called smart contracts. Smart contract is a piece of software that allows to execute something. Let's see, for example, let's say the elevator fee. We say we're going to take $5,000 for the elevator fee, and if nothing happened to the elevator, within 10 days, the money is going to go back to you.
And you don't have to sit there and wait for the management company to write the check and send it, and an owner and the board
chief complaint in the real estate space is where's my refund on my security deposit or
your construction deposit.
Exactly. So we are
or your security deposit, and you have to wait all this time. Although there are laws on the security deposit about when, for tenancy that you have to deliver it back within a certain period of time.
Although I will tell you from personal perspective and experience, those laws, enforcing those laws as a matter of practicality is not the easiest thing in the world. So your landlord doesn't send it back to you on time.
Yeah, are you suing
you're
over?
You're going to go take them to court. But what I got to imagine, I'm imagining on the perspective of, millennials and Gen Zers, we know demographically they've got less money to their name than previous generations.
But they use it off their phone. They do it all on the phone.
But my point about the dollars is that security deposit or whatever that version of that is, they need that money.
They want to right away.
Well, they also can't. They don't have another 5 or 10. I mean, you go rent an apartment right now. First month, last month, security deposit, maybe a real estate fee.
You don't have to tell me. I have 2 children who are living in rental communities, and trust me, you're talking about $10,000, $12,000.
2 to 4 months, 2 to 4 months of deposits out of the gate. And when you're talking about a market like this one, $3,000-$4,000 a month. I mean, there's not a lot of millennials or Gen Zers right now that have $12,000 or $15,000 handy to make those deposits with. So they need those back quickly.
Not only that, but somebody buys a house between the closing costs, the mortgage, and so on and so forth. Additional $5,000 for many people is difficult to get.
Right.
And when they want to get the money back quickly.
It's the difference between being able to afford it or not afford it.
Yeah, but most people, or not most people, but a lot of people living beyond the means. And
credit-based economy.
Welcome to the United States of America.
Yeah. Right. So then by extension, we're talking about being able to make these deposits. You're talking also about being able to do things like pay maintenance and rent and ongoing expenses then on a routine basis.
And what if you live in a community where you have, like you said earlier, you have a restaurant and it just takes the money out of your bank automatically, and you don't have to. You don't even use a credit card. You just. It's
but imagine in the future to create the condominium coin, a digital coin for that particular community, ABCD coin that you can use to get a hamburger. You can use it to do anything you want, and it comes out of the money you're putting into monthly.
And this sounds like more of sort of current technology being applied to real estate. So all the way back to the beginning of our conversation that, real estate, through companies like yours, it might be able to start to catch up with industry leading types of technology and payment solutions.
You also won't be taking any cash anymore.
Right.
None of the condo associations and management companies will be taking cash.
Well, when we've certainly seen in the headlines over the last couple of years of the kind of fraud that has taken place, even among board members.
Yeah. Everything will be more. You talked about total transparency.
Right.
This is part of total transparency.
But why trust a company like Tenant? Why would a condo association saying, listen, I mean, again, you look at the budget of these condo associations, these are not $500,000 budgets anymore, David. You're talking $5 million, $10 million, $20 million budgets routinely across, millions of doors in the state of Florida alone. How have you earned that trust?
For the financials, you mean?
For any of it, for taking financials, for making payments. I mean, why is it that a condo association or a management company says, we're going to turn a lot of that over? Because right now, a lot of that is through a management company, but often through third-party services. There's a lot of disconnect, and I know this because I've been in the management space for so long. Why Tenant Evaluation?
What about if we partnership with one of the biggest banks here is behind that?
So there's financial institution.
It's a financial institution behind that technology as well.
Got it.
We partnership with a financial
It's not
institution.
like you're holding the money. It's the bank that's holding the money.
Exactly.
Got it.
In a big bank. I'm not talking about a very small bank.
Got it.
So
we're not talking about Josh and David's bank.
No, exactly.
Do we still have that? But I guess, from my perspective as well, I think one of my, I guess both a curiosity question, I'm sure one that our listeners and viewers have as well, Luis, is when you're looking at that kind of technology, you're also looking at saying, what's the advantage to me obviously is safety, it's security, it's transparency, to David's point. We're seeing some other types of services that look a little bit like, I'm thinking, for instance, of Built Rewards. I've seen Built Rewards online. They offer almost like the equivalent of airline miles or reward points on credit cards. I know you and I talked briefly about that once a while ago when it hit the market. Do you see space around that kind of rewarding for saying we're trying to encourage people to get out of the older, the lockbox payments, mailing checks in or dropping off the
Remember, you
management
drop
office?
them off and you put it in a You put it in the slot and they open up the box the next morning and pull out the checks.
Is there? Are you looking at things like that, or
yes, definitely, it's going to be rewards for everybody to pay some time. I think they deserve to get a piece of the action as well. This is there's a win-win situation for everybody.
From the condo perspective or the homeowners association, it's really important that if the money is due on the 1st, the money arrives on the 1st.
Well, cash right now in Florida, given the laws, is king. I mean, if you don't have the money in your hands, then
But you're paying out the electric bill, you're paying the water bill, you're paying the vendors for extermination and pool and all the things that homeowners associations and condo associations pay. If you don't have the money in the bank and you don't have the cash flow, then you run into problems. And I think, and by the way, this will get rid of some of legal work, which is liens and foreclosures, because the collections are going to go, there's going to be fewer collections, but that's a good thing. That's a good thing, because then your condo association is going to run more smoothly, and you will have the money, you'll have accurate data on an annual basis. It will be less discretionary, whereas 12% didn't pay this year and 4% didn't pay the year before. You'll have more consistent payments on the 1st of the month so that you can easily pay the bills of the condo or the homeowners association on time.
Remember, this is 2 steps. First step is ensuring that the applicant or the tenant or the buyer has the money necessary to pay. Once that is complete in tenant evaluation, the second part is to utilize the blockchain technology in smart contracts to get the money directly to the condominium the 1st of the month. So once you have those 2 steps covered, like you mentioned, all those problems are going to start going away.
And you'll have less time by board members and management staff chasing owners for the money.
100%.
So then
let me ask you from the management side, how much time is spent chasing owners for the money?
Inordinate. I mean, it's, if you were to say, if you could eliminate one problem from the management perspective tomorrow, collections would probably be number 1 or number 2. In terms of time spent, dollars spent, soft or hard, that are unrecoverable. It's not like, obviously from a legal perspective, if you lien a unit, if you foreclose on a unit, you're recovering legal fees, at least theoretically. Management companies don't have that option. We can't go and then say, well, we spent 30 hours calling you and chasing you, and now we're going to bill you those 30 hours. We don't have that right, and so that just goes right out the window.
And all that time listening to you talk about how the dog ate your check.
Oh, right, and it's one thing after another. But I'm glad you raised the issue of time in management companies, because I think this, to me, is my probably leading question. I got to imagine for anybody listening or watching who's operating in a management company or as a manager or a board member. The only thing that makes me nervous about this, to be totally blunt, Luis, is how much time does it take to get all of this set up? Because I know one of the things that, previous versions of management companies that I've been a part of, one of the reasons we didn't make a lot of forward change, and I think maybe one of the reasons, as I'm thinking about it, that real estate moves more slowly in technology is change, and that it requires an enormous amount of effort to make that change, to integrate systems, to
and there's so many people involved.
Flip things over, to train people. How would you address that in terms of saying, if I was a management company saying, okay, all of this sounds great, I want to use your screening technology, I want to use your payment technology, but I've got 100,000 doors or 1 million doors. This is going to take years to convert and train. How do you respond to that?
We are working really diligent to create a system that allows, in the first part of tenant evaluation, to be able to be onboarded within 5 minutes. Any association.
For the whole association or for one applicant?
For the entire association.
In 5 minutes?
5 minutes. We are working with AI. We're working to make sure that that particular problem gets resolved. And the same thing is applying into the vendor we're going to be using for the financials. They are working, and they already have a platform that allows you to set it up really quickly.
So if that's the case, whether it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, both sound great to me. I will ask you the same question I asked before. Why wouldn't everybody be gravitating towards it? Because again, both from my own perspective and from others, I know they're not using technology that's this efficient. Why wouldn't they? What's the reason they wouldn't?
Well, there's one reason, and I don't know if I mentioned this, and David, you will correct me if I'm doing something wrong. There are companies that are paying under the table to property managers to use that particular solution. Those we cannot get. We know we are better, we are more safe, but those particular associations do not change because they are getting money under the table.
I would think that that's more in the self-managed with a single manager who's getting.
We don't pay anybody. Whoever uses our system is because we do a good job.
I think what's going to happen is Luis's company is cutting edge, and it's going to become the gold standard, platinum standard, whatever you want to call it, going forward over the next 5 years. So I agree with you, Josh. Why wouldn't anybody use it? You would use it. I think it's going to become the norm to use this technology, to use AI, to use the financial data, and to use the financial ability with a big bank in order to get the money out and get the money into the association, whether it's condo or homeowners, or even a multifamily apartment building where the developer says, hey,
right, commercial owner doesn't care about any of this.
I mean,
stuff.
commercial owners give me my money.
Right.
You know, there's no board of directors.
Right. This is an institutional grade investment. Right. This is not political.
Yeah, no, I want my money, and I want it on the first of every month, and I want the rent. And let me tell you something: the amount of rent that commercial owners get paid is a lot,
and they can evict too. So they do have solutions that condo associations and HOAs don't enjoy.
I do think that this is going to become the standard. And I do think that this is something that Luis and the partnering companies, including the bank or banks that they work with, are going to be able to, I don't want to say corner the market, but maybe someone will try to duplicate it. I hope that it is copyrighted, patented, whatever the software is. But the reality is this is the future of property technology.
And
integrating it with financial technology.
I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. But let me throw another challenge at both of you, and I'd be interested in both of your perspectives on this. I know what my opinion is. You raised it a couple of times. There is a demographic that exists within this space that is more resistant to using technology, and it sounds to me like already in Tenant you're starting to do things. And again, whether you want to call it older folks or less technologically adept, there are some people who are just very suspicious of technology, right? I don't want to put I don't ever want to even type my name into anything.
I don't want my name anywhere electronically.
Right. How does that get addressed? I mean, is that a real prohibition, or is that group actually shrinking because a lot of that is age based, and the reality is that group is getting less prolific?
In the applicant size of the process, there is a problem. You had to go online. That we have in.
They do it in almost every other version of their life. And they want to go check their bank balance online. They got to do that.
This is no different.
Yeah, if they go to Amazon to buy something, they got to put in their name. They got to put in their address. They got to put in their credit card. So
I don't think that's going to be a big problem. And the older people, they don't enhance technology. They're going to be retired. And the new generation is going to come in, and they want to have the technology. They don't want to do manual work. They want enhanced technology.
Well, it's funny. I think almost there's opposite ends of that demography. You've got some folks in one generation who don't want anything to do with technology, and you've got the other end of it who don't want anything to do with people.
Right.
They don't want to ever pick up a phone. They don't want to ever visit a management office.
They sit and listen.
They're behind a screen the entire time. They don't want anything to do with anybody.
To those of the viewers who are parents or grandparents, and you see people sitting at a table eating dinner, and there are 4 people, and each one is on their phone doing something else, and they don't even talk to each other, and sometimes they're texting the same people they're sitting with.
Maybe they're paying a condo maintenance fee while they're at dinner.
Yeah, I don't think so.
To me, the saddest part is to see a couple. They are just dating and go out for dinner, and you see each of them in a phone.
Maybe they're flirting. Maybe that's their. Maybe they're on.
That's why Lisa takes my phone, and when we're having dinner at home, she tries to put it on the other side of the room.
That is. Although you've been better lately.
I'm getting better. I mean, I've been to dinner with you where Lisa takes the phone and puts it in the pocketbook, and there goes my phone, and then I have to actually pay attention to you.
So I'm glad. So great. That's an awesome segue. You're on today. You know what? Maybe it's the fishing shirt. Something's going on that's good today. You're teeing us both up. There is a question that I would ask both of you, and again, Luis, starting with you. There is a removal of the human part of this process. And that may be also part of why real estate technology moves more slowly, is it has historically been a very face-to-face business. It's a people-based business. Do you feel like this represents some kind of existential threat to the industry that way?
Ooh, that's a great question.
That it's not.
Wow.
I want to.
No,
you
you
hear
now
what
we
I
have
hear?
Abraham. Do we have instant replay? Can we go back and
tag that second good question or
But
great
does this
question by Josh.
represent a threat? Because listen, I mean, the way you're describing it, from day one to day N, you don't really have to be in front of anybody to do any of this anymore.
Well, an amazing question. I don't think this is going to replace.
Amazing. I heard it. You shouldn't have said
It's
the
not
word
going to.
amazing.
It's not going to replace. It's going to enhance the people. Why do you want to do manual work when you can just really have relationship? Be worried about what really the client needs. That's where the value is here. You need to really understand your client, and you cannot understand or put attention to your client if you spend hours doing emails, hundreds of hours doing paperwork. You need to really focus on what is important. So to me, that's where the real value is.
So before you answer on your part, because I was imagining, and this is my imagination as a property manager, and saying a property manager is never going to be eliminated, right?
No,
there always has
no.
to be a physical presence. But if I did not back in my day have to make collections calls or process payments or look at all of these various things that you're doing, I mean, literally looking at background check, right? I mean, did they fill out their social security, right? Can I read it properly? That means more time for me walking the property, the shaking hands and kissing babies, which that is the part of real estate that probably will never go away at some level or another, because there is this sort of qualitative piece of real estate management that will always exist. So I can imagine some of this is a threat to certain managers from that perspective, but I got to imagine if it's framed properly, the idea that actually buys back a manager's time or a management company's time, as opposed to eliminating the need for them. This is not manufacturing. You're not getting rid of the jobs. You're giving them the opportunity to spend more time on the things that, listen, I mean, one of the things when we used to pitch boards of directors, when I was in that part of the space, and why use my management company over another, one of the chief complaints I would often get from prospective board clients was, our manager's in the office all day. They should be walking the property. And, in the sales process, you're obviously trying to spin a great yarn about, the way you're going to do it differently. But in reality, oftentimes you're thinking, I've been in that chair and there is so much to do that I could spend all day in the office and still not get done what I need to get done. So I'm imagining this is a little bit of solution building.
To me, the vision is, imagine a hotel. That's what a condominium should be. Should be people really worrying about, are the plants doing okay? Is the elevator clean? Is the lobby organized? That is what the time you need to spend on. Making sure where you live is a hotel. No being in an office resolving emails.
And I'm thinking about some of the technology that you're talking about in terms of automated customer service. These sort of, this kind of FAQ, if you will, that people I know are able to chat with Tenant Evaluation on an AI basis.
Not even chat, voice.
The voice, and saying, for condo associations, I don't know if this is something you've considered as well, but for condo associations, when that phone rings or we get an email or a text, most of the questions, most of the dialogue is the same questions over and over again.
Yep.
When am I getting my deposit back? How much do I owe? When is that meeting taking place, et cetera? And that all seems so like such low hanging fruit for AI. Because it's already documented, but you're doing it over and over. And David, I mean, same thing for you. I mean, not to minimize your profession any more than mine, but I got to imagine the number of repeat questions and answers. You and I have so much of that memorized because we get asked the same thing 500 times a month.
I would say this to you. FaceTime is important. The human element is important. If you're in property management or you're a commercial property owner, you're still going to meet the people. You're still going to interview them. But you have all this extra information that was collected for you without you having to spend all this time doing it. And with that, you have more time to get the feel for your tenant, for your owner. Mm-hmm. You have more time to see what's important to them in their business, and less time wasted on, as you had said, the low-hanging fruit, the technical stuff that's so easy to give to AI. It gives you the time to find out what's going on in their business today that's not yet in the computer. You find out what's going on in the trends in their business in the commercial space. And in the owner space, what's going on in their life. My wife is sick, okay? I'm very busy with that. We have a nurse coming in. How can you help me to get my nurse in and out and valet or whatever it is? Instead of, I have a leak, I need you to call the building engineer to get someone to come. Instead, you do it online. It's all done by AI. It gets someone there, schedules it. I don't have 5 phone calls with you to find out when you're going to be home because you're going to put in when you're going to be home. And if you're then going to change that, you change it online.
Right.
So it gives people more time to do things that are more qualitative and less quantitative.
While you're simultaneously shortening the cycle around finance and diligence so that you're also more protected.
And you're avoiding more mistakes like the check is lost. We didn't bring it in yesterday.
Right.
And
we don't take checks, right?
Right. We don't take checks anymore.
So, Luis, as we wrap up our time with you, and we really appreciate your time here, this is, I think, both insightful, and I know that all of our viewers and listeners they're thinking about this. I cannot tell you the number of questions about prop tech I get on a
this dark web stuff is now my focus.
David, by the way, is going to go back to the office and obsess over that. And his poor assistants are now going to be checking the dark web for all.
No, Luis is going to check the dark web and see if my information is out there.
To close, how do we get from here to there? Right. And I'm looking at any follow-up questions from David are obviously welcome, but I'm looking at our industry right now that we all share in one level or another. And I'm looking at Florida in particular, and I'm seeing this is an industry that is facing massive challenges. And one could even argue crisis, especially in the condo space. Insurance, assessments, costs.
Building structure.
From my perspective, even though it might not be instinctive, getting down this path will begin to resolve a lot of those issues from one level or another, and including the idea that more burden is placed on the resident directly instead of the association, whether it's financially or logistically, so that rather than the association spending all of its time answering questions and dealing with financial management, that so much of that gets headed off by technology. But from where we are now, how do we get this industry to catch up to where you are? How does that happen? Obviously, the better you do, the better the industry does, but how do we get there?
I want to give you an example. For me, Miami is one of those examples. We have gone through hurricanes. We have gone through crisis. We have gone through many, many different things. And the city always continue evolving, always continue changing. And today, the city is so incredible versus 20, 30 years ago. It's the same way it's going to apply for this industry. We need to evolve. We need to change. We need to adapt. And we need to embrace AI.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Looking forward to embracing AI. We're going to take a short break. David and I will come and wrap things up. Luis Teran, CEO of Tenant Evaluation, thank you so much for joining us. Very insightful as we talk about property technology.
Thanks, Luis.
Thank you.
Lots more to come on that, I am certain. And David, you and I will chat a little bit about our thoughts on that and how that might lead into a couple more conversations we're having this week with some very interesting guests who probably also are facing a lot of those challenges themselves in that context. You're watching Sun, Sand, and Soul. Josh Tomey with David Haber. We'll be right back.